Welcome to this episode of Locked In. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to clear bra your bike so you can keep your road, gravel, mountain bike, cyclocross bike, or anything else in between looking like new no matter how many miles you put on it. So if that's something you're interested in, please stay tuned. So in this video, I'm going to be going over all the supplies you're going to need, my basically rundown of how I actually apply it, and a few tips and tricks along the way so that you can get a seamless looking clear bra job on your bicycle to protect it. First off, let's get into what you're actually going to need. Now, for the 3M clear tape that I use, I'll have some links in the description below for the items that I got directly off Amazon, but obviously you can order this from anywhere. I usually recommend getting two different sizes. If you have a modern carbon or aluminum bike, you're going to want one roll of 4-inch and one roll of 2-inch. Now, if you have an older bike or a steel bike that's a lot thinner tubing, you might just need double the amount of the 2-inch. Consider that depending on what style of frame you're putting this on. The reason you want the two sizes, it just makes it easier as far as cutting goes, since you want to do bigger sections for some of the fatter tubing on modern bikes. Then you're going to want a spray bottle with some dish soap and water, a clean microfiber rag or rags, scissors, a pen or Sharpie, and optionally you can have a hairdryer with you or a heat gun. This is going to help manipulate the tape for any complex curves if it doesn't want to stick. And if your 3M kit doesn't come with it, you're going to want basically to order a separate squeegee, essentially. It's not necessary, but it definitely does help on some areas. Now in this video, I'm predominantly going to be showing you me applying this piece to the chainstay, since that's one of the most popular areas you're going to put this on, but all these factors are going to work on any of the areas of the bike. I'm not trying to make a 3-hour tutorial on how to do your entire bike and how different it is, because obviously every bike frame is unique, but all these principles that you're going to be hearing about are going to be something you can use on any bike that you put this on. So to get started, pick your first area that you want to do. I typically recommend, if it's your first time, picking a easy area, meaning there's not a lot of complex curves to it, like the underside of your down tube where you can pretty much lay one continuous piece. But let's get started with the chainstay. What you're going to do first is you're going to roughly mock up the length of the initial piece that you're going to need for the coverage. Now I like to, especially for the chainstay, try to wrap it almost fully around so that obviously the top is protected from chain slap, the inside of the chainstay is protected from any mud debris or anything built up there, and the outside is protected in case my heel accidentally hits or knocks against the frame while pedaling. So initially cut out the length of piece that you think you need. Keeping in mind, the more complex curves you try to wrap the tape around, the harder it's going to be. So try to make it as easy as you can for yourself and cut the piece appropriately. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take the tape and lay it over the piece that you're trying to wrap. And it's not going to lay super well, so again, you're going to be rough cutting and slowly adjusting. You really want to take your time to prep for this and really make that template as close as you can, because you don't want to have to actually cut it while it's actually already applied on the bike. It's never going to turn out that great. So as you do this, you're slowly going to refine the shape, cutting in all the angles that you need in case the tube tapers, so that you're not having any tape overlap itself once you're applying it. As you finally refine your shape down to what you actually want to use, now it's time to prep and clean the surface you're going to apply the tape to. What you want to do is take your soapy solution and your clean microfiber rag, making sure not to set it on the ground or any dirty surface, and clean the surface thoroughly, making sure to get everything off of it. The reason why you want to use a microfiber is because it cleans up all the little dirt and lint that could possibly be on your frame better than just a rag. Once that's clean, now you're going to want to re-wet the surface with your soapy water solution, and then slowly peel back the clear bra from the backing tape, wetting it as you go. This process of double wetting your surface and the tape is going to give you more time to actually adjust this without having any issues, but keep in mind it is going to be a little bit more work to actually get the soap out of there, so where it sticks better. So it's going to have a lot of movement and be very easy to manipulate, which is a good and a bad thing depending on how careful you are. So keep that in mind. If you want to speed this process up, you can just wet the surface or just wet the tape. Just know that it's going to mean that it's going to tack down a lot quicker and you have less room to manipulate some of the air bubbles out. Once you then apply the tape, you're going to slowly work out the air from one end to the other. Now I use a combination of the squeegee and my hands. I typically use a squeegee on all the flat surfaces since it makes it pretty easy. And then I'll use my fingers for any complex curves or the edges of things. Again, working very slow and methodically, holding down the tape so it doesn't slide around, because it's going to want to initially because it has nothing to really stick to. So slowly work the air bubbles out, making sure not to go too fast or put too much pressure so you don't gouge the tape or potentially move the tape. This process, I can't really tell you anything else to do besides take your time. Always working all those bubbles out to the edge of the tape. That's really all you're trying to do to get all of the air out of there. So as you do this, the tape is obviously going to start getting a little bit better hold. You're gonna slowly work all the water out. Periodically, I'll take my rag and put it near the edge of the tape where there might have some water spill outs just to move it away from the surface. And you're gonna keep working this until all the bubbles are out. Sometimes, yes, you're gonna have bubbles in there that might not want to. Just slowly work them as much as you can. Doing this in a warmer or dry environment is going to help evaporate some of the water as well, so it might help you after a few minutes of it heating up. So in those scenarios with bubbles or areas where the tape's not wanting to expand, bring in your heat gun as a heat source to help hopefully manipulate it enough to get that air out of the tape itself. And once you're done, I typically don't want to touch the bike or the tape areas for at least a day. If you can leave it out in the sun once you're done, it is going to help it dry completely. Because obviously, if there's any residual water or soap still underneath the tape layer that hasn't evaporated or you haven't squeegeed out, it's gonna want to basically move. And that's something that's obviously gonna ruin all the hard work you just did. So that's essentially all you're gonna do, and you're just gonna rinse and repeat that process on all the tubings that you're gonna do on the bike. Using a combination of your thin and your wide tape, depending on what you're doing. Typically, your wide tape is gonna be what you're gonna use for your fork or your down tube or your seat tube. And then the thinner tape is going to be great for your chain stays or any other small areas that you want to make sure that the cables on the bike don't rub the frame, or any other areas that maybe are a little tighter where you don't want to have to trim down this big wide piece. Making sure to save all your little scraps, because you'll never know when those little teeny pieces might come into handy to protect some part of the frame. And if you do this correctly, you really can't even tell that the tape's on there from like a foot away. I can definitely notice it on my gravel bike once it's dirty, because that thin layer of dust kind of sits on the edge of the tape. So you can see it on the bike once it's dirty, but when it's clean, realistically, it's really hard to tell if you do a clean job. And that's really what you want. You don't want it to distract from the paint job that you have on the bike or a custom one that you may have done on it. And this is a simple, easy way to protect your bike and give you an extra layer of protection. And lastly, if you ever do end up gouging a piece of the tape or anything like that, you can simply remove it and obviously do another piece and replace it. That's the great thing and why I really like the 3M stuff. It seems to have a really good adhesive that's strong enough to hold, but not too strong to where it's gonna rip paint off. I've replaced these pieces on other frames and never had an issue of it pulling paint, whether it's a stock paint job or one that I did myself. So I hope you guys liked that video. Please comment below if you have any questions. I'd love to hear back from you guys. So I hope you like this video. Please make sure to subscribe and turn notifications on so you can see all the weekly cycling content that I put out on this channel. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Links are on the description below. And thanks for watching another episode of Locked In. Let's get